Let me tell you about the wildest day of my life. The day I locked 30 luxury cars inside my backyard and watched the self-declared queen of our HOA lose her mind on live TV. No, seriously, this happened. One minute you've got a pool full of strangers sipping champagne. The next, the HOA president is screaming, "This is shared property. Let us out," as steel gates slam shut, and everyone suddenly realizes there's no escape. I'll never forget the sound of all those fancy engines idling, party music cut mid-beat, and people standing around with glasses frozen in midair, just realizing they'd been outplayed on my turf. Back up a sec, how'd I get here? How does a guy like me, someone who aged out of foster care after 12 different homes, end up with enough leverage to cage a bunch of socialites with a single button? Folks around here call me Dr. Max Stone, trauma surgeon, Metro General. The path to this neighborhood wasn't pretty. Think sleeping on garage floors, eating cereal for dinner, wearing hand-me-downs that never quite fit right. You learn a few things that way. Nothing is promised. Nobody gives you anything. And every scrap of security you get, you fight for. That's why when I finally made it through med school, 3 jobs sleeping in the library, the whole rags to barely clean scrub story, I promised myself something. I'd build a sanctuary for kids who grew up like I did. Not some charity, just a place where they could feel safe. That's how the pool behind my house was born. $80,000 every penny earned, so kids with muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, kids whose bodies fight them every single day, could move and laugh and feel normal in warm water, if only for an hour or two. But it turns out not everybody in Emerald Hills thinks the same way. Enter Anastasia Vanderbilt Cross, our brand new HOA president, who waltzed in 6 months ago and never missed a chance to show off that everything she touched turned to gold. Except maybe her sense of decency. Old money, new money, inherited money. Whatever flavor you want, she had it. And she was convinced she owned the air we breathed. Designer clothes, perfume that hit you from 10 feet away. Jewelry that could fund a whole hospital wing. But what really made my skin crawl was the way she looked at my pool like it was wasted on me. 3 weeks before D-Day, she started circling. At first, it was casual little comments through the fence while I ran therapy sessions. Such a large pool for one person. Ever thought of sharing with the community, but the undertone was always there, the way some people ask questions that are really just warnings. Then last week, she cornered me in my own driveway, laying on that silk and steel tone the wealthy use when they're about to take something. "Marcus, darling, don't you think your pool could be a wonderful community resource?" "We need more wellness initiatives in the neighborhood," I told her as politely as I could, that it was for medical therapy, specialized equipment, all the insurance red tape, you name it. "Oh, sweetie," she laughed, "beautiful spaces belong to beautiful people. Surely someone with your background understands sharing." The rage tasted old and bitter, like all the times grown-ups in foster homes told me my things weren't really mine. But I stayed surgical calm. "It's not for sharing, Anastasia. It's for healing." She gave me a look that said, "Clear as day, this isn't over." It wasn't. 3 days later, after a brutal 16-hour hospital shift, I came home to find a string quartet playing by my pool, 30 people in tuxes and gowns, swirling truffle oil and expensive wine into my carefully balanced water and crystal stemware, floating on the surface like high-class pollution. At the head of it all, Anastasia. Professional caterers, a floating bar and a sign at the gate, exclusive aquatic experience, $750 per person. I made a beeline for her. What the hell is this? For a split second, genuine surprise, like she forgot whose property this was. "Marcus. Wonderful. I hoped you'd join us for our inaugural community wellness soiree." I told her to clear out. She just smiled, handed me a $20 bill, like she was tipping a valet, and waved a folder. The HOA bylaws say private amenities can be used for the community in emergencies, Emergency neighborhood wellness crisis. Darling, all these poor souls with nowhere to swim. Never mind that everyone here owned more property than most counties. It was never about wellness. It was about power and money. Turns out she was taking reservations for future parties, monetizing my property right in front of me. Next morning, the real party started. My hospital's chief of staff called tight-voiced. "We're getting complaints about your lack of community cooperation." Yeah. Then came 3 voicemails from the HOA. Anastasia had filed a complaint spinning me as a selfish doctor who refused disabled children the use of my underutilized pool. Photos started circulating me exhausted in surgical scrubs, confronting her perfect guests. By noon, my phone was blowing up with neighbors' calls, and the Nextdoor app exploded with posts about my supposed hostility. The air stank of manipulation. But Anastasia wasn't done. By 3 p.m., she showed up with 2 board members and a stack of documents thick enough to choke a horse. Community wellness emergency. She read allows the HOA to commandeer your pool. Her backup, Jim and Michelle, looked as uncomfortable as I felt. Jim owned the local auto shop. Michelle taught high school math. I looked at the bylaws. Something was off: the signatures, the formatting. I remembered my lawyer, David, saying the original documents would be on file at the county office. I asked for the originals. She dodged. "Not relevant," she said, but I saw her mask slip. That night I called David. "She's bluffing, Max. Emergency powers need unanimous approval, and they definitely can't seize private property for commercial use." Then I started digging county records, late-night phone calls to other homeowners, and what I found made my blood run cold. Anastasia had done this before: commandeered a tennis court, a workshop, a garden. Same emergency, same social pressure, and when people couldn't fight back, she won. But I wasn't leaving. Not this time. A few days later, she leveled up, filed complaints with the medical board, allegations of erratic behavior, inappropriate conduct, substance abuse. Attacked my license, my livelihood. Topped it off with a notice on my door: $2,000 emergency assessment for upgrades to my own pool so she could run more wellness events. Then she invited Channel 7 News to film a feature on her community initiative, painting me as a villain who kept disabled kids from swimming. For a moment, I'll admit, I thought she might win. The pressure was unreal. Parents of kids in my therapy program got calls from their insurance coverage revoked because I was suddenly unlicensed. The hospital threatened administrative leave. A judge granted Anastasia a restraining order banning me from my own backyard. Even my patients, little Sarah Martinez, 8 years old, who'd written me a thank you letter for helping her swim without pain, had to quit therapy. But then the twist. A message from Lisa Martinez, one of Anastasia's earlier victims. "She's forging documents, Max. I've got proof. We met at a coffee shop." She handed over a box of originals, every amendment, every fraudulent claim. We compared them to the county records. Not only had Anastasia forged everything, but the original charter specifically protected private amenities. Her so-called emergency powers were completely fake. David and I took it straight to the feds. And that's where the real story started. Federal agents, hidden cameras, security upgrades. My property became a sting operation. Every document, every transaction, every word out of Anastasia's mouth recorded, cataloged, and sent straight to the FBI. The final act, her Midsummer Aquatic Wellness Gala, complete with 200 guests, local officials, a mayor's award, and media coverage. She even hired an actor to play a state official, faked government endorsement, sold $600,000 in fake memberships. She'd franchised her fraud to other HOAs. Day of the gala. I wasn't even there. I watched from a coffee shop as Agent Mitchell coordinated the takedown. As soon as Anastasia launched into her speech about beautiful spaces belonging to beautiful people, I pressed a button. Ballards rose at every exit. 37 luxury cars, trapped cameras, rolling news crews, stunned. FBI agents revealed their badges. The HOA queen tried to argue, threatened, pleaded, even screamed for her daddy's lawyers. Didn't matter. They read her rights, handcuffed her in front of 200 witnesses and a live TV audience while her supporters melted into the background. Karma's got a way of showing up dressed in federal blue. After the dust settled, after the headlines, the class action and the sentencing, 7 years for Anastasia, millions in restitution, new laws passed to stop this from happening again. I stood by my pool and watched kids like Sarah swim without fear. My share of the settlement, more than enough to upgrade the facility, expand the program, and fund scholarships for other foster kids aiming for medical school. The city apologized, the news printed retractions, and believe it or not, Emerald Hills became an actual community. We even built a real public pool funded by volunteers, managed by people who care. You want to know what I learned? Here's the thing. Power and money can buy a lot, but they can't buy the right to steal from people who have nothing but grit left. If you ever find yourself up against someone who thinks they're untouchable, remember, justice might not be fast, but it can be beautifully satisfying when it finally lands. So, what do you think was justice served? Where's the line between community and coercion, between sharing and stealing? Drop your thoughts below, share your HOA nightmares or stories of fighting back. I read every single one, and who knows, your story might be next. And if you like seeing justice take a bite out of entitlement, hit that subscribe button. There are plenty more HOA Karens just waiting to meet their match.